Smell. Amazing facts about the sense of smell that you might not know. The human sense of smell is more powerful than we think. Your inner voice might be your nose telling you what to do. The nose knows everything, from detecting threats to recognizing family members and potential mates. Imagine walking into a meeting room. You shake hands with colleagues, and then everyone sits down. Within seconds, they start smelling their palms, picking up clues about you from the chemical traces left by the handshake. According to a 2015 study by Israeli researchers, sniffing one's own hand after shaking hands will likely help people glean information about someone's health and genetic compatibility within 30 seconds of interaction. Smelling can also provide information about people's emotional states, such as whether they are happy, sad, or afraid. The nose gathers these emotions in our subconscious. For decades, scientists believed that humans were not very good at detecting odors. Our connection with our noses is breaking down. Our animal ancestors used their noses much more than we do in modern society, according to Jessica Freiherr, a neuroscientist at Ruth-Aachen University in Germany, and a few research authors on human olfaction. Our connection with our noses is breaking down, she says. We need them much less in daily life, and our vision often overrides the impact of our sense of smell. But that doesn't mean we don't have a powerful potential for smell. In a 2014 study, we showed that we can distinguish at least 1 trillion different smells. Previous estimates were only 10,000. However, awareness of our innate sense of smell is complex, as the human language doesn't have enough words to identify 1 trillion smells, and much of our sense of smell operates beneath our conscious radar. Unlike our other senses, olfactory nerves don't progress directly to the thalamus, the gateway to consciousness in the brain. Instead, information is fed from the nose to cortical areas without our awareness, to evoke emotions and memories. When it comes to smell, humans can be influenced without realizing it. Who passes the smell test? An animal nose is clearly superior to our mediocre noses, isn't it? Matthias Laska, a biologist at Linköping University in Sweden, has been comparing sense of smell across species, including humans, for over 20 years. As the data I've collected about different species has increased over the years, the picture has become even more interesting, says Laska. However, measuring how sensitive a long nose is compared to a bat or a human is not easy. Humans can tell you when a certain smell can no longer be detected, but every animal must learn to associate a certain smell with a reward and do something like press a button for researchers to know when they smell it. The compared smells between species must also be the same. However, while humans can smell around 3,300 different smells for science, the highest number of smells that any animal has been tested for is 81, which spider monkeys can smell. Laska found solid data to compare humans to only 17 species among all mammals. But human noses hold their own. Humans have been tested to be generally more sensitive smellers than monkeys and mice in their limited range of smells. In fact, humans detected odors at lower concentrations than the famous snouted nostrils of rats and pigs. Humans have even trained dogs who don't bow down to a handful of scents. This also includes plant-produced aromas, which made evolutionary sense for our fruit-seeking ancestors. The majority of the scents that dogs, which are better than us, detect are fatty acids associated with meaty prey. You're not good at smelling things that don't concern you, says Laska. Humans are not as hopeless as classical wisdom would tell us, and dogs are not the super nose of the universe for everything, says Laska. Scented fingerprint. If you are attacked by a stranger whom you cannot see well, can a police officer identify the person by scent in the suspect identification room? Would the body odor of the perpetrator be enough? According to a 2015 study by scientists in Portugal and Sweden, it could be very possible. The researchers collected body odor samples from 20 male university students. Later, other students watched a real assault video carried out by a man on a woman to emotionally confuse them. In reality, it was the scent of one of the 20 male students. Later, the sniffers were given a lineup of 5 scent samples and asked to identify the person they smelled, probably not a very enjoyable task. The results were still quite impressive. The witnesses were able to identify the potentially suspect person with 75% accuracy. Each person has their own unique scent. Johan Lundström, a neurologist at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden, says, "It's like a fingerprint. Body odor has a broad genetic component. Even trained scent dogs struggle to distinguish between identical twins, unless they have different diets." Scientists still do not know how human body odor can be like a scented fingerprint. It could be due to odorless substances produced by apocrine sweat glands in the armpits being made smelly by bacteria. In 2015, scientists from Düsseldorf University described unsaturated or hydroxylated branched fatty acids as the most dominant odor, or the worst smelling. Human scent affects our brains differently from other odors. According to a study that used positron emission tomography PET to measure brain function, when we smell something, the areas of the brain responsible for social processing light up when we catch a scent. The study's lead author, Lundström, says, "There is much more information in body odor than we can get from normal smells." Emotional sense. Another reason you can identify a criminal, or at least someone who feels uneasy, is that they just smell dangerous. In one of Freier's experiments, published in the Chemical Senses Journal in 2015, researchers collected sweat from 16 men. The men had taken a timed math exam and were told they had performed below average. Displeased, they later participated in a study where their sweat was collected. As a control, the men took the math test again without time constraints and were told they received an average score. They then exercised and their sweat was collected again. While the men took a cognitive performance test, volunteers smelled the men's sweat samples. When volunteers smelled the sweat of the men who were told they performed below average, their attention was distracted and they slowed down in answering their own tests. However, when volunteers smelled the men's sweat samples from the second test, they scored emotionally neutral. A mountain of evidence shows that emotions have a smell. Moreover, such emotionally charged scents can be contagious. Tell your friend that you're meeting someone who makes you happy because you watch funny videos on your phone. When you approach your friend, you smell their scent and automatically smile. But if your friend had just watched a horror movie, their body odor would make you feel anxious. In 2015, European researchers used electrodes to measure facial expressions of volunteers who smelled sweat samples from people watching pleasant or scary videos, using scenes from Disney's The Jungle Book and Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, respectively. Jasper de Groot, a psychologist from Utrecht University in the Netherlands, says that after smelling the Jungle Book observer's scent, the participants really put on a genuinely happy facial expression. This was a clever and important experiment. Meanwhile, smelling the scent of stressed individuals grabs our attention, while the smell of those who have recently seen something disgusting causes us to cringe. In fMRI scans, the left amygdala, where basic emotions are processed in the brain, lit up for the first time in people who smelled the sweat of first-time skydivers, showing that fear is actually contagious. The scent of a lover. Breathing in someone's body odor can reveal more about their emotional state than words can express. Smell can help us learn about the opposite sex's health and biological compatibility, and even aid in selecting the perfect mate. In a study published in the Journal of Psychological Science in 2014, people could identify who had symptoms of illness based on their body odor. Researchers injected sweat donors with the toxin that causes an immune reaction. From an evolutionary standpoint, there are advantages to smelling sick or diseased. Choosing an unhealthy mate is not the best way to pass on your genes. However, the importance of gene spread, even if it is a bigger one, is the ability to tell differences in MCHE, a family of genes related to the immune system and body odor. Scientists have long known that animals like mice and rats can tell how genetically related they are to others by sniffing each other's urine. Research shows that humans are also masters of this skill, and fortunately, there's no need to smell urine. When a group of women were asked to smell t-shirts worn by different men on 2 consecutive nights, Chicago University scientists were able to determine their closest genetic matches, despite there being millions of unique combinations of MCHE genotypes. We want to protect our own gene pool. A study from McGill University in Canada, which included neuroimaging that shows brain structure and neural activity, revealed that smelling the scent of someone with whom we have a close relationship activates the dorsomedial prefrontal cortex, a part of the brain responsible for recognizing family. Biologically, it makes sense. We want to protect our own gene pool, says Lundstrom. However, it prevents bad mate selection rather than choosing the best mate. Research shows that humans, especially women, prefer potential partners who are genetically somewhat related, but not closely related. Studies indicate that having a child with someone who has a very similar MCHE genotype can lead to spontaneous abortion or low birth weight. On the other hand, pursuing someone with a close or semi-close genetic structure preserves our adaptations to the environment. Think of the local population's immunity to local pathogen strains. Meanwhile, some scents can make us more attractive to potential mates. Take the scent of grapefruit, for example. In a study involving guessing the age of women in photographs, participants who liked the scent of grapefruit thought the women in the photos were an average of 12 years younger. When participants smelled spicy and floral notes, they saw the women as 4 kilograms lighter. Buying perfume for someone in your family makes more sense than buying it for a stranger. This is because genetic relatedness seems to influence scent preference. In one study, people with similar genotypes chose similar perfume components. Studies indicate that having a child with someone who has a very similar MCHE genotype can lead to spontaneous abortion or low birth weight. On the other hand, pursuing someone with a close or semi-close genetic structure preserves our adaptations to the environment. Think of the local population's immunity to local pathogen strains. Meanwhile, some scents can make us more attractive to potential mates. Newborn baby smell. If you think there's something special about the smell of babies, you're right. In 2013, scientists from Germany, Canada, and Sweden conducted fMRI scans on 30 women as they sniffed the clothes of newborns. The thalamus of new mothers lit up more than that of women without children, and the scent of a newborn caused their brains to pay attention. All women showed activity in the brain's reward center, the neostriatum. The study's lead author, Lundstrom, said that the fresh smell of a newborn activates the same biological mechanism in women as a baby's: big round eyes, chubby cheeks, and cooing. This is nature's way of binding mother and child. While only women were tested in this study, Lundstrom suspects similar results could be found in men. For now, researchers have not been able to identify the molecules responsible for this new baby smell. Lundstrom and colleagues are looking under the microscope at some of the chemicals figuratively and literally, and even investigating whether the scent of a newborn could be used to treat depression. They can differentiate their biological babies by smelling them. The team also looks at whether women with postpartum depression lack newborn odor molecule receptors, or if they can receive reward signals from baby scent. Like our ability to recognize people with scent, new mothers can differentiate their biological babies by smelling them. In a classic study, mothers were able to distinguish their children's scent from other two newborns even after spending most of the time apart. 6 hours after birth, 60% of mothers guessed correctly. Chance is 33%. Newborns learn the scent of their mothers by the second day of life. In a 2015 study, breastfeeding babies turned their heads toward their mother's scent pads for nearly twice as long as those of strangers who were breastfeeding. The mother's body odor can be learned to some degree because this odor is associated with the chemosensory signature of the amniotic fluid that the unborn person perceives, says Katrin T. Elbke, a smell researcher at the University of Düsseldorf in Germany, who is not part of the study. However, simple exposure is not enough for parents to identify the scent of their non-biological children. In one study, mothers were able to identify the scents of their biological children with 90% accuracy, but with stepchildren, only 28% accuracy was achieved. Some parents consulted for a government-backed study on failed adoption among families in Wales reported that their children's unique body odor had a negative impact on their relationships. A mother said her adopted daughter didn't smell right. While our noses can sometimes lead us astray, they generally send us important messages about other people. Be careful, a dangerous person was here, and may be hiding nearby. Be careful. A person may be sick and contagious. Be careful. Your newborn baby needs care. Be alert. This person may be a potential partner. Even in modern times, there are advantages to having a more acute sense of smell. Lundstrom says, listen to your inner voice, because your inner voice may be your nose telling you what to do. Thanks for watching. You can support me by subscribing and liking. I'm waiting for your comments.